All right. I think things are working. Okay, and okay. There we go. I hope you're having a good Sunday or Monday, depends on where you live. Let's see here. Got a whole bunch of people. That's nice. Let's see here. We've got Julian and Patrick and Colin and Philip and Brendan and Blake and Eric and VJ Morph. Let's see here. Another wonderful Sunday morning hangout. I appreciate that. Let's see here. Good morning from cloudy Mexico City. I love Necromunda models for the kit bashing potential. Glad for people that enjoy the game. See, there you go. Molly, how you doing? Animeister, how you doing? Who's been playing Space Marine 2 lately? I might start playing it tomorrow. I think it comes out tomorrow. I was not planning on paying more money to play it early, so I think, like I said, I think it comes out tomorrow. So if I have the time, I will do it tomorrow, I think. Most of yesterday I spent building Necromunda models, which I'll talk more about in a sec. Morning from Quebec. It did get cold. Yeah, I'm wearing a hoodie and pants, not shorts. It's crazy. Now, later this week, it's going to get back up into the 80s again, but like yesterday, it was a high of 62 or 63. Today, it's going to be a little bit warmer, so. Let's see here. Good morning, Uncle Adam and Tabletop Minions. Absolutely. John Ashley Smith, how you doing? As you may remember, I've long been a Necromunda advocate. There's so much cool stuff in it. There is definitely so much stuff, that's for sure. Howdy from Jonesboro, where I stayed up way too late painting. Nice. Good morning from seasonably cool Tennessee. Yeah, same here. Necromunda always interests me. Also sounds like a 90s music fest. It does, kind of, yes. You're not wrong. Kent, England. Chile, Oklahoma. Let's see here. You going Cawdor? I am, as a matter of fact, yes. So the reason that I'm even looking at it right now is because when we were at Nova, Sam was reading whatever the book is for the Goliath guys. And so I was like, what's going on? And he's like, oh yeah, well, what, some of the guys that he and I know are going to start doing some Necromunda. So I was like, interesting. And then I didn't really think much about it and stuff like that over the convention. And then later on, I got back and I started thinking about it again. And I was texting back and forth with Sam. And so Sam's doing Goliath and Raven is doing Deloc, which I also would have been interested in, I think. And then I started thinking about it. I'm like, which one of those? Because I could never remember. There's Orlok and there's Cawdor. Cawdor is a whole different game. And one of them are just miners, like they mine, and the other ones are like kind of religious zealots to some degree. And I thought it'd be fun to go with the religious zealots. Both sets are cool. The Cawdor guys are a little bit cooler just because basically they just dig through trash. They're like religious zealots that dig through trash mainly, which is, I think, kind of interesting. So probably the last real day of summer here, close to 90 tomorrow. It's 20 less and all downhill. Like I said, it was cool the last couple of days, and then now it's going to warm up a little bit, and then it'll be kind of normal. So good morning from Cleveland. Assembling some Gene Stealer cultists this morning. Nice. Definitely more into skirmish games. Did I miss the Angels of Blood kill team? I don't know what that is either. I saw that thing on the article, and I don't know what Angels of Blood means. It's or is it Angels of Death? Whatever it is. Angels of Blood would probably be Blood Angels, but I'm assuming it's something else. I don't know. Checked a few times this week for how do I even start Necromunda, so this is perfectly timed. There is a YouTube channel I would suggest that did a series, I think is maybe still in a series of doing it. It's a YouTube channel called Miniatures Rundown, and they do have a series about how to get into Necromunda, and they also are doing a series about each of the different gangs and such, or whatever factions. So I would take a look at those as well. Good morning from Round Rock, Texas. How you doing? Wet South Wales, howdy. Montreal, again, howdy. Let's see. Driving back through North Georgia, I have a chance to listen to you live. Well, nice. Oops, everything moved. Where are we here? Coastal North Carolina. Still hoping for a final blast of a heat wave before real fall sets in. Give me some more 30 degrees Celsius days so I can hit the beach. Hello from Frankfurt, Germany. Painting up random stuff on the table. Nice, that's always a good idea. Dayton, Tennessee. Morristown, New Jersey. Good morning from temporarily scorching Saskatchewan. That's a lot of fun to say. Somerset, Maryland. South Australia, it's 11:31 p.m. See that? Like I said, it's almost Monday. Well, now how do I fix that? There we go. All into the Lord of the Rings tabletop. Nice. Is it Reading or Reading, UK? I can never tell. Prey Shock, how you doing? Morning from a nice and crispy 104 degrees SoCal. Blah, that's no fun. Nobody. I don't want that at all. What happened to my mouse? Okay, cool. Something's being weird with YouTube today. I don't know what it is. Let's see here. Western Australia, Clearwater, Florida, West Midlands, Farmington Hills, Michigan, Cleveland, Central Scotland, working on Drakari. Nice. Good morning from Alaska, trying to decide on painting some Blackout or work on college homework. Well, I mean, college homework is probably important, but Blackout is also pretty cool. I think I still have some of the original Necromunda terrain in storage. Used to use it for Heavy Gear Arena. Gotcha. It feels like as difficult as it is to get into Necromunda, GW doesn't want new people to get into it. They just want to keep the people that they have, which without growth, it won't survive. I mean, they came out with a new box recently, the Hive Secundus stuff. It's not a bad way to start. I mean, it's not cheap. That's, of course, the thing, too. But there's also not really much in the way of terrain there. It's really more of a dungeon crawl type setup. And there's like some little plastic doors and barricades. But otherwise, it's mainly, you know, chipboard tiles, you know, and stuff like that. But it's, I think, a jumping off point. At the very least, they have combined the majority of the main rules into one book. The downside is it's about 1.5 inches thick. It's monstrous. But this is the new core rule book. It's got, I don't know, like a Palatinite or whatever dude on it. And it's got, I guess, an ogre and just a bunch of other folks. I think this guy might be an Orlok. This guy's probably Van Saar, if I had to guess. But so, yeah, this is the new book that's got the stuff in it, like the market or the, you know, all that kind of jazz. So there's that. But then you still need, because it's G-dubs, you got to have another book, because otherwise how are you going to know what you're supposed to be doing? So because I am doing Cawdor, it's House of Faith, which is the second book. I already had the core rule book. GW sent it to me, I believe. Because I do get Necromunda stuff from them from time to time, because I get its Skirmish stuff. I don't, other than like when they come out with a new release, like 10th edition, I generally don't get like 40k stuff or Age of Sigmar stuff. I basically just get like skirmishy stuff. Excuse me. So, but this I had to go to my local store and pick up because I didn't have that. So it's, the way I'm looking at it is this. There's a bunch of different points. Number one, if I was just trying to get into this myself, just, and, you know, decide to become a gaming advocate and try to teach somebody else to do it, it would be a much steeper hill to climb than there are already some folks around here who are playing it that I know. And, you know, so it's kind of a group that's going to be heading in. So we'll stumble through it, you know, because some of them have been playing a little bit. No one's like an expert yet. So, but at least it's not just me deciding, well, I'm going to do this, and then going from there and then trying to teach somebody else, because that's a huge thing. The fact that there are other people interested in it, and that's always the case in war games. You know, if there's already a group around, it does make it easier. I'm not going to lie. It doesn't mean that you should only ever play the thing that people around you play, but it's up to you. So there's that. Secondly, I look at it from the aspect of push comes to shove and this all falls apart, I'll still have a bunch of painted guys that I can then use in Gang War, which is basically the one-page rules version of Necromunda, which I have a suspicion will be considerably easier. The other thing, though, about Necromunda that I'm finding as I'm going through and reading this is that when I look at it from the aspect of it's basically kind of a role-playing game without so much role-playing, but with more wargaming, there's the vibe changes, at least in my mind. The fact that I'm like, this is not just like a sit down and like, okay, we're going to play. Like, this is designed for campaign. It's designed to be kind of like a role-playing game, but more like a video game role-playing game, right? In video games, when you play a role-playing game, think Fallout, yeah, there's little choices you can make in the dialogue trees, and you can do things that make you sometimes a good guy or a bad guy or whatever. But for the most part, it's about, oh, I got more experience, so I got to up my stats. I got to do this. I'm going to put more points into this, put more points into that. And so far, Necromunda seems to be like that type of game, which is fine, which is good. But yeah, so we'll see how it all goes. But I've got currently, as of this recording, I have 8 out of 10 of my models for my crew built. I got 2 more guys I got to build, hopefully maybe today still. I've got other dumb adult, I've got business stuff I've got to get done, unfortunately, today too. Business stuff. So, but yeah, so that it'll be very interesting. And I'm looking forward to getting painting on them too. But I've also got the Halo guys to paint too, because they're already at least started painting, but we'll see how that goes. Also the terrain. I love the terrain. I've been messing with the terrain for a while. I have a bunch of the Zone Mortalis tiles. And I've been kind of, 3D printing some stuff that will work. It's not a direct knockoff. It fits on the spot, but it doesn't look exactly like, the GW stuff. So it's not just like someone trying to rip them off completely. It's in the same vein. But I want to do a bunch of these modular tiles, and I want them to be stuck down. I don't want this stuff to be move it around. I want each tile to be built and glued down, and then you put the tiles together modularly. Although I don't know how you stick them together, because they don't have like little clips or anything. So I'm not sure how that works. But anyway, that's part of the plan there. Let's see here. Where are we? Alaska. YouTube's doing that thing again where you start the stream, but it still shows the countdown for me until I refresh the page. Good old YouTube. Morning from Saskatchewan. How you doing? Cloudy afternoon from Cloudy Puckle-Church. Always fun to say Saskatchewan and Puckle-Church right near each other. That's a lot of fun too. Corvus Games Terrain. How you doing? As it gets a little bit warmer this week, I've got some Corvus Games Terrain that I need to prime. It's a building, kind of a cyberpunkish building that I got from you guys and had my friend Dave print before I bought my own printer. But yeah, it's sitting in the living room. Yes, so I need to prime that with the rattle can once it gets to be a little bit nicer out. Let's see here. Good morning from Albuquerque, painting my Soulblight Spearhead and getting ready to play Don't Look Back. Nice. Getting some Imperial Fists airbrushed up. Nice. Middle Tennessee, pleasant 50 degrees. Started a batch of chili. Ooh. I like to call this time of year false fall. Oh yeah, no, there's all kinds of, there's like false fall and then second summer and all kinds. Yeah, there's like a chart that shows you the Midwest seasons, and then, yeah, it's way more than 4. How do the new Necromunda rules differ from the OG rules? I don't know. I never played OG Necromunda, like way back in the day, previous to 2017, which is when the new rules came out. I just used to watch it a lot. Back in the day, I would go to Gen Con when Gen Con was still in Milwaukee, I mean, I still go to it now in Indiana, but back, you know, like in the early, well, not the early, the mid 90s, I would go to Gen Con, and I never played, see, now the sun's starting to come out. Son of a, I never played Necromunda, but I did, I would watch people play for like hours sometimes. You know, I would be probably slightly annoying, but I would always try to stay out of the way and stuff like that. But yeah, that was always a lot of fun. Blur's Craft, how you doing? I watched a couple of your videos last night, as a matter of fact. They were talking about you on Hivescum, and I was like, I don't know how to spell that. And then I went over to the Discord, and then someone helped me out with that, so that's good. Wish I could pick a Necromunda game, but all of them seem to just miss the mark to have, or have the Malstrain issue. Hoping Scabbies return. I'm not familiar with Scabbies. House of Chains. Yeah, that's the one for Sam's group. Yep, House of Chains. Looking at the rule set for Necromunda, I get flashbacks to second edition. Yeah, it is definitely got that bit of vibe. And that's the other benefit too, honestly, these days, is that when I'm looking at the rules and stuff like that and the stat lines and things, they look like 40K stat lines. And I'm like, oh yeah, which is why I used to love, you know, Kill Team 2018. Because I could look at it and go, oh yeah, that's kind of a 40K stat line. Basically, little tweaks here and there, but it's basically a 40K stat line, and I understand what that means. And the new ones, I don't really understand what a lot of that means. I mean, I could figure it out, I guess, but it doesn't just like immediately, you know, translate in my brain. Morning from sunny Milwaukee. Looking forward to Drop Fleet 2. How you doing, Jesse? It's good to see you at Nova. Necromunda models might be the best 40K era minis. Necromunda models, in my opinion, are some of the best GW models they make. Like, before, like, 2018 maybe, somewhere around there, I went and bought nearly every gang that was available at that time. Not all at once. I would buy one when new ones would come out, because I'm like, I'm just going to use these for kit bashing because they're such great models. So that was actually slightly beneficial, because as it turns out, for my Cawdor warband, I need, there's like the main kind of like leader body, and I also used that same body for both of my champions, but you're just modifying kind of the arms and the heads and stuff like that. And, you know, like I'm giving one of the guys the heavy crossbow, because the heavy crossbow is dope. And it's so big that it kind of hides the fact that this guy and this guy have kind of the same pose. They also get that leg up with a box, and there's a skull in the box. And on two of the guys, I just cut that box skull off and replaced it with something else that they've got their foot on. So that also helps to break them up. But the thing is, I need 3 of those guys. There's only 2 of them in the Cawdor box. But I had a Cawdor box from before that I've been taking parts out of, and luckily I haven't taken all the parts out of it. So that guy and like one other dude are the dudes that I have to finish, and then I've got 10. So my starting 1,000-point group is 10 models. That's the thing about Cawdor, from what I understand, is that it's you almost always have more models than everybody else, because your models are cheap, because they're overall not necessarily great. They've got some kind of cool stuff, but they're not fancy schmancy like the Fansar guys or the Delac guys. Cawdor are super scrappy. That's fun to say. No Gene Stealer cultists. I haven't really even looked into that in Necromunda. 29 years on, I'm still running the old school Necromunda for my gaming group. I wanted to like the 2017 version, but it's too much like a board game to me. Gotcha. Oops. I think it moved. Yeah. So it's every Sunday now? It wasn't technically last Sunday, was it? It was 2 Sundays in a row. Then I was in Nova last week, and now we're back on schedule. I'm 98% sure that's the way it's going to work. Well done pronouncing Saskatchewan off the cuff. I appreciate that. Okay, there we go. Super scrappy, Gene Stealer cults. Morning from Salt Lake City. Friend of mine are getting an Infinity just in time for 5th edition. Nice. Good morning from Andrews, Texas. Trying to learn how to wet blend. May not have very good results. The best way to practice wet blending, in my opinion, is to do it either on bases of models that you're working on, or if you are doing fantasy models or anyone with a big shield. Like, it's really easy to kind of wet blend on a big shield. VJ Morph, how you doing? Getting in last orders at my mini factory summer sale and completing the bases for my gas mask troops in Townsville. Nice. Still buzzing for my acquisition of the 2-player Steel Rift starter I got retail at Black Knight Games. Nice. I should be getting the new... So did you get the new 2-player, which is the real inexpensive kind of like pre-built one, or is it the original 2-player? Because the new 2-player they showed off and kind of announced at Nova, and I didn't get it at Nova because it wasn't going to fit in my luggage, but I ordered it when I got home. And I'm going to be doing a video about inexpensive 2-player starter boxes that you may want to look at, and that's going to be one of them. Spoiler alert, at the very least so far, it'll be that one. It'll be the Halo Recon box, which I think is $75. That 2-player starter for Steel Rift, the new 2-player, like easy to build starter. You get 3 models and 3 models, and then everything you need, even some like cardboard terrain. It's not 3-dimensional, but it's 2-dimensional. It's like $45. Yeah. So if you've been interested in Steel Rift, you might want to take a look at that. But yeah, so $45 for Steel Rift, the new starter, 2-player starter. Halo Flashpoint Recon Edition is like $75. And then I even ordered, and it came a couple days ago, Alpha Strike. I keep wanting to say First Strike, but it's the BattleTech thing. So I'll take a look at that too. Let's see here. What is going on with YouTube? I can't put my... There we go. My mouse starts to disappear sometimes in the chat window, and I don't know why. I can see it in the other 2 screens, or the, off, but yeah. Let's see here. Necromunda Miniatures plus OPR Firefight Gang Wars seems the way to go. Yeah. Like I said, that's always a way to fall back, or to do both, depending on who you want to play with. Like if I'm playing with like Raven and Sam and those guys, we play Necromunda and we chew through it. And if I just want to play with somebody else, just kind of, then we can do that. Samwa, how you doing? Hi from Ukraine. How you doing? Have GW fixed the accessibility problems with Necromunda rulebooks text printed over to their background images? I couldn't read the older rules. So I had that same issue. House of Faith is better. There's still some spots where I would love it if it was a little bit lighter behind the text, but it's not bad. But some of the earliest books are literally almost unreadable. This is hard. If you're reading this not in bright light, it's a little difficult, and they could dial it back. As a person who has laid out at this point 4 books that all have a page texture, right? Like here's Majestic 13, right? And every single page has got like little photo. I don't think you can really barely see them here, but it's got like little photocopy lines, when you got a bad photocopy and you get those little lines along the edges. Like I put that into every single page, but I also made it so you could read the text. So, just something to think about. Same with Death Wizards. Death Wizards has got like a parchment kind of page thing going on the edges. You can see it along here on the edge. Here's the old combat from Sam. But yeah, there's there we go. So there's like, texture along the pages, but you can read the text. Something to think about there, G-dubs. Anyway, the new giant book for squishing rats or whatever, I feel like they did go through and fix it because it's more readable. I don't know if you guys can see that. It is more readable, and they did dial back on the texture on the page. So that's a benefit. But the skinny books, if they're older... let's see here. Munich, Germany. How you doing? Wadtomaton, howdy. Good afternoon from Athens, Greece, playing Spearhead as we are hearing you. Nice. Well done pronouncing Saskatchewan. I read that already. Played some Fallout Factions yesterday. It was a blast. I forgot about that, and I bought that at Gen Con. I might talk about that too, because that's technically a 2-player starter as well. It's like $100 or 100 and change. Like I got it at Gen Con for $100, but when I looked on the website, it was like $113 and something, which I assume is probably translation from pounds because they're an English company. So I don't know, but I forgot about that one. That's a good one. Good afternoon from Athens, Greece. I just read that. Painting my sister's battle cosplay. Nice. Oh, for Dragonfall, you're doing that, Allison. That's really cool. I don't know if you saw the pictures. I took some pictures with Rachel Paints Minis at Nova. If you take a look at my Instagram, yeah, I'm 98% sure. Yeah, if you take a look at my Instagram, there's pictures with me in it. Her cosplay was awesome. She did great work. Like she's been going to, like, I think GW is sending her to narrative events so she can like help do stuff, but then, you know, wear the Sisters of Battle costume thing. It works out real nice. Necromunda player from New Zealand, how you doing? Best game ever, hands down, has something for everyone. I'm looking forward to it. I feel like you know, even though they haven't made anything for it in years and years and years, Mordheim is still very, very popular, and it's because of the type of game it is, I feel, and the type of people who are interested in that specifically. And I'm wondering if maybe, and I generally have a tendency to skew more sci-fi than I do fantasy. Like, I will play some fantasy games, certainly, but more often than not, at the end of the day, I'm interested more in sci-fi. So I think that that's going to be a benefit. So we'll see how that works. Put together some Cawdor minis a while back. The models have so much detail. They do. The worst is, I think, there's a guy who's holding a reclaimed autogun. He's like running forward, and he's holding the reclaimed autogun in front of him. And it is a giant pain in the butt to get those arms up underneath the cowl, glued in there in the right position, and then get the gun in the right position. It's real fiddly. I really need a third arm is what I need. Because there's a lot of times when I'm like, I'm holding two pieces together, and then I need another person, or if I had just like a third arm, or something, like, you know, I could mind control it with like a robot arm or something, just to put a little drop of that accelerator stuff for super glue, so it locks it down fast. Like, that would be super. But there's times when I'm like, I'm just gonna let this go, and I'm gonna, oh no, I can't do it. It's a pain. So anyway, for the most part, it's been okay, but some of them are a little. You are correct about the Orlok and Vansar. The ogre is instead a Goliath. Oh, is that who it is? Oh yeah, I guess so. All right. I think that you can take like special dudes, and there's like the Ogren guys. I think I have a box of those that showed up at some point too. Good afternoon from the workbench in the South Shields, UK. Working on my steel helms. Nice. Painting Cawdor today. Love the fact that they are made from magnets. Yeah, no, that's true. All right, there we. Okay, I don't know what is going on with this chat window today, but it is being a jerk. Let's see here. Oh, Rex, don't. No, don't. What are you? Oh, for God's sakes, that cat. What are you doing back there behind the desk, you little? Don't pull on the cords. He has been full of beans this morning. Get out of there. Go over here. Hang out so that people can see you. How about right here? You can do it. Come on, Rex. Make the jump. You can do it. Good boy. There you go. Yeah, look out the window. That'll be great. Anyway, everybody else is generally chill. Although he is starting to be a bad influence on Maggie, who always was the sweet one, and now she's getting up on furniture, like on bookshelves and stuff like that, because she didn't know she couldn't do that, or that she didn't know she could do that, and he started doing it, and she's like, we can get up there? And yeah. So anyway, let's see here. Oh, there's your very important motorcycle going by. Wellywood Gaming is another good Necromunda site. I think I've heard that name. We're back to when I was sneezing. Aeronautica Imperialis players will tell you that GW doesn't want you to play Curse City. Gonna need another book. Both of them will get replaced in a couple of years and off the GW expensive paper merry-go-round. The one benefit that I see here to Necromunda also is, and the sun's coming out more, is that it is they really technically haven't had a new edition since 2017. Now, that A may mean that we're due, but I hope not, especially since this book just came out, but that doesn't mean anything to GW. I feel like they just aren't doing the same kind of thing that they're doing with the majority of the rest of their games on that 3-year cycle. I think it's just the way it seems to work. So, I don't know. We'll see how it works out, I guess. You need to make the most aggressive competitive list to squeeze the fun out. Yeah, I don't even know how to do that, frankly. So yeah, that's no good. Stargrave is a good sub for Necromunda. Sure. Just hoping GW keeps leaving Mordheim alone. I made a video about that, as a matter of fact. Let's see. Am I mistaken, or can you play a simpler Necromunda by just using the rules from a box set? Yes, I think. Like if you buy, like let's say Hive Secundus is the most recent one. I think you can just play it just straight out of the box. I don't think you need the big honkin' book or the other thing. But if you want to start expanding or whatever, then I think you need that stuff. I do like the book ribbons with the Necromunda books currently sticking together, the Resin Squat Explorer vehicle, and it's very wonky. Yeah, well, resin, yeah. Painting some Zombicide, how you doing? GW's narrative RPG-like campaigns seem really difficult to get into for some reason. I think it depends on maybe just expectations sometimes. Eventually, yes, but at the moment he has all he needs, and honestly, if that's all he ever gets, that's all he'll ever need. Like, I don't know what else I would need. Like, I don't think we're planning on moving into the Ash Wastes at all. We're not going to do vehicles, I don't think. Not that I think. I mean, we're basically just going to do regular old Necromunda. So hopefully I would assume these 2 books would be fine, but I don't know. Necrovox and Yak Tribe website are my go-to. Yeah, I've been looking at Yak Tribe. Like, I finally figured out what my old password is from way back in the day when I was, like, messing with it for some reason. So that was good. Super excited to hear your thoughts on Halo when you get to playing it. Who are you playing it with, Sam? I don't know. Maybe, probably. Either Sam or maybe my wife or... I don't know. Maybe I'll try to teach somebody who's, like, totally new to that type of stuff altogether. Print Minis is doing a completely compatible set of terrain STLs. Nice. Answer to how the tiles work is awkwardly. I was thinking about just building a frame, like a small 3 foot by 3 foot frame, so that you could just set it down on the table and then put the tiles in there and they won't wiggle apart. There's this company called Secret Weapon Miniatures that is unfortunately out of business, but they did have a great set of terrain tiles called Terrainscapes, something like that. Elric's Hobbies bought the rest of their stock, but and they also made little resin, molded bases, and they also made paints and stuff like that. So Elric Hobbies now owns all the rest of it. Anyway, those tiles that they made were hard plastic, 1 foot by 1 foot, and they were great. But they had these little clips that went on the underside so you could clip them and they wouldn't move apart. And it was an awesome design. And no one else has ever done that, really. I mean, the Realm of Battle boards technically had little clips, but they were also so big that you almost didn't need them. But, because they're 2 foot by 2 foot and they weigh a bunch. Print minis, I read that. Let's see here. Thomas from Sweden here. Don't have so much tabletop games in stores. Almost online GW. Gotcha. Warren from Uperland. How you doing in the UP? Germany, Berlin. I played Necromunda Classic back in 1997. Nice. Sometime in the 2000s. 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. I went to a convention, a local convention, and they had an auction. They had like a silent auction thing we can go through and like whatever for games. And I came across a starter box for the original Necromunda, like the 1995 original Necromunda starter box. Still in the shrink, never been opened. Like someone bought it. It sat there for, at that point, 10 years. Right? Because 1995 to 2012, 13 years, just sat there. Nobody had ever opened it. And then they're like, well, I might as well sell this. And they brought it to this, and it was like, starting bid was like $60 and buy it now was $80. So as soon as the auction started, I'm just like, $80, please. And then I sat on it, not physically, but I sat on it for, because that was in February, because that convention's always last weekend in February. I sat on it for months and months and months trying to decide, am I going to open it and start putting it together and playing it, or am I going to, flip it? And I wasn't sure, and I hemmed and hawed. And then right around Gen Con of that same year, I finally decided I'm going to put it on eBay. And I sold it. I basically put it out like with a, instead of it just buy it now, I put out a thing and people could bid. And it got up, I think the person who finally won, I think I sold it to them for, with shipping, about $260 or something like that. So that was pretty cool. But I never really pulled the trigger and opened it and went through it and stuff like that. I just used to watch it like back in the day when I would go to Gen Con. I would spend a lot of time back in like the mid 90s when it kind of first came out. People would be playing these crazy built up boards that were like to get line of sight. They would use a laser pointer and a dental mirror to see if they could shoot like through this terrain to see if it was a lot of fun. Catching us live for the first time, Giovanni from Grand Rapids, Michigan. How you doing, Giovanni? PDF rules, hard plastic for bulk troops and STLs for elites for me now, which is awesome as it seems all the Mantic games are going that way. It makes sense. Painting some Zombicide, nice. Just watched yours and Sam's 8-year-old video on it. Oh yeah, one of Sam's first videos on the channel. Got some chili going, nice. Let's see here. In Steel Rift, how many mechs on a side? It depends on the mechs you use. It's generally when I'm, like the normal, like, unless you're trying to play on a bigger board. If you're playing like on a 3 foot by 3 foot and you're using whatever it is, 250 points, 200 points, 250 points, whatever it is. It's in the book. It'll tell you like kind of the breakdowns. I think one of my groups is 6 models and one's 5. But if you get the starter, the new 2-player starter, it's 3-on-3 and everything you need. So, where'd I go here? Crockpot of chili. There we go. Do you think the lawsuit against Bamboo Labs has any legs? I've only vaguely heard of it, so I don't know. I just vaguely heard that someone was like, "Oh, we invented." Is it the plate being hot? I don't remember. It's hard to say. It'll either, I guess I'm assuming it'll probably settle. I don't know. Enjoyed your video on basing. Could you share your recipe for your fantasy bases? I quite like how they look. I've had a couple people ask about that, and I'll have to look into it. Yeah. Painting a pair of 3D printed tanks for Grimdark Future to accompany Rogue Trader. Nice. Must be psychic. Yesterday I started collecting rules to begin learning Necromunda. I mean, some people have said that I'm psychic. It happens. Fantasy-based video would be great. Last basing video changed my whole sci-fi basing philosophy. Well, good. I'm glad. It didn't get views, but there were definitely some people that were like, this was cool and I like this a lot. So I always like to hear that. Any interest in OPR Gang Wars? Local Store just did a great campaign of it. I am, and I'm looking at this from the aspect of like, at the very least, I'll have models that I can use in that, and I could switch back and forth, certainly. Like when I'm playing with Sam and Raven and those guys were playing Necromunda, but I could be doing other stuff with the OPR. Got a Goliath gang when they first released them of the last big thick rule book and House of Chains. I have no idea if anything else or whether the big book is still valid. Yeah, I don't know either. Scavies are the mutant warband from the classic Necromunda. Gotcha. Is Necromumbles moved to Warcry rules like Kill Team? No, it's definitely much more like it kind of used to be. Let's see here. Speaking of Necromunda, how is Necromunda looking? Necromunda is looking rather sneaky back there. He does. He's definitely peering through the window. Actually, he's gonna be going on patrol this afternoon because my wife's got practice this afternoon, so he and she will be out and about. I read White Dwarf 200 from the 90s the other day. Had rules for Karloth Valoy, who's basically a Necromunda psychic vampire. That's kind of cool. Gotta say, I wish someone would re-release the Necromunda launch terrain. All GW boxes since then have been disappointing by comparison. The GW launch terrain. Or the Necromunda launch. Because the original Necromunda 2017 box, when I first saw it, I was like, this isn't good. Because it was literally, I thought, at least at the time, because it didn't have any verticality. It was just a flat board, and then you had some doors and barricades on it. And I don't remember, so I'm not sure if I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, they make all that 3D stuff, like I said, the Hive Secundus now stuff is new, kind of. They've got the ruined pieces, but then otherwise it's the Zone Mortalis stuff, which is cool, but it's not cheap. Painted my Orlok gang with UV glow paint. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Morning from Williams Lake, BC. Don't worry, no one else where that is either. That's fine. Genestealer Cultist rules, you can find Pure Strain ones in Book of Ruin and Malstrain ones in Book of Desolation. I don't have either of those books. I do have the one for Van Sar. Book of Avarice? Or something like that. I really want to get into Warhammer 40k, but nobody here plays and my local store doesn't host games. Wow, no kidding. Because like 40k is generally the more popular one of all the war games out there, you know. Oops, I moved the window. Didn't mean to do that. Having trouble recalling how I spent last Sunday. Must be getting old. I was hoping for the return of Ratskin Renegades Necromunda, but there's a lot that I like in the games without them. Gotcha. Good time of day. Working on various undead. Nice for Death Wizards. Appreciate it. Sam suggested putting some texture on extra bases and using those for practicing wet blending. Yeah. I think he's made videos, I think, about that before. Maybe just on his channel, maybe on my channel. I'm not sure. I know that he's a big fan on the base on your model, that it should be lighter in the front and darker in the back. So if I was standing on the base, you'd want it to be a lighter color in the front and then kind of fade to a darker color in the back on the base to kind of draw the eye a little bit more. I don't usually do that. Sometimes I do, though. More often than not, if there's like a big tower shield or a big flat piece, then I will practice some wet blending on it and everything like that. But he wet blends on... If you go back to when he painted the Sepulchral Guard from Warhammer Underworlds, like he was wet blending on arm bones. It's like, oh, I'll start here, and I'll go over here, then I'll, and a little bit of that. And it's just like, it's crazy. Like tiny little arm bones on these tiny little skeletons. Got the original two-player starter. It doesn't diminish my excitement for the game. I mean, the original two-player starter came with a lot more stuff, obviously. Like this new $45 starter is only 6 models, 3-on-3. And it doesn't even come with the real full rulebook or rulebook. It comes with like quick start. You can play with what you've got here. And it also comes with like, they're like pre-made, pre-built, like, you know, setups and stuff like that, but it is designed to get you playing quickly, hence the quick start kind of thing. I don't know if they call it quick start two-player rules, something like that. But it's also, like I said, $45. It's a great place to start. And then if you want to expand, you pay $15 and you get the rule book, or you just get the PDF if you want to go down that road. It's maybe $10 for the PDF or something like that. I don't remember. And then you can just start adding, you know, mechs if you want to as well. I worked last Saturday or Sunday, all day Labor Day weekend, and my last name is Labor. Well, there you go. My wife had to work on Labor Day too, yeah, because she works at the university, and that's when the kids come back to school. With the announcement that Kill Team teams will now be getting rotated, I'm pondering looking into Necromunda. I understand that. Yeah, that was a real piece of news on Friday. Doesn't surprise me at all. Let's see here. The Blood and Plunder two-player starter is pretty reasonably priced. Is it $150 or is it cheaper than that? I'll have to take a look. Eric's Hobby Workshop makes incredible cheap underhive terrain. He does. He does. I was just hanging out with him last weekend, as a matter of fact. He did finally eventually get to the Nova Open. He was supposed to get there on Thursday. His flight was canceled multiple times because he lives in like around Toronto somewhere. And he literally did not get in actually finally until Friday night. Like he was supposed to be there around maybe noon or something like that on Thursday. The rest of us all got in on Wednesday. He was supposed to get there around noon on Thursday. Didn't actually get in until Friday night, like 10 o'clock. It was crazy. Everybody had trouble flying in. Even we did. Like our flight was supposed to leave at 7 in the morning on Wednesday. Didn't leave till 8:30, which then meant we missed our connection, and then it was a whole thing. So yeah, we were supposed to get to DC around lunchtime on Wednesday. We didn't get in until after 5, almost 6. Steelriff is designed to play with as few as 3 mechs per side to dozens. I guess you could play with dozens, but yeah, it's at the very least 3, I think. Halo starter has great Christmas morning feel, no painting or glue, 10 to 15 minutes on the table. True, yep. Can you tell us more about your books? If you go to snarlingbadger.com, that's where you'll find all of our games. Me and Vince Venturella have been producing games since 2021. We've done Rain in Hell was the first one. Space Station Zero was the second one. Majestic 13 that I showed a little bit ago was the third one. And the most recent one is Death Wizards. They're all miniature agnostic. Use whatever kind of models you want. They're predominantly all, you can play against your friends, but you can also play solo or co-op as well. We've been doing that for a while now. And yeah, it's a fun system. And again, each book is different. Like we don't use the same kind of rule set for each book and just change the story or change the skin, as it were. Each rule set is different because rules matter to the story, or the story matters to rules. I guess that depends on how you want to handle it. I want to make a Chaos Cultist list using Dark Mechanum and Chaos Androids. Does anyone have any good suggestions for Chaos Android models? I don't. I mean, I guess you could use kit bash some Necrons if you wanted to. Is getting a Necromunda box set game a worthwhile deal? Which box set is best? I mean, the trick is I don't know how many you can find. Let's take a look, shall we? Okay, so that's the Warhammer shop online. No, okay, well, shop on. Stop being weird. Stop being weird. I hate this website. Come on. Seriously. Anyway, more other games. Necromunda. There we go. So currently, why is it in pounds? I think my computer needs a reboot is what needs to be happening. But not right now, obviously. Necromunda. There we go. Okay. So for 170 bucks, you can get Hive Secundus, which is basically... It's just basically a flat board. You have some bulkheads and some stuff. You get this group of models and this group of models. So these are basically like Tyranids, but they're like mutant Tyranids. And these are Vansar type dudes who come through to hunt the mutant Tyranids. The mutant Tyranids are kind of weird looking, but I kind of like it. It's cool. These guys are also weird looking. Anyway, so yeah, this is 170 bucks, and you do get a rule book. It is a soft-sided rule book. Comes with the tokens and the dice and all that junk. So that's kind of fun. What else? Then for $178.50, which is a very specific price, you get this, which is Hive War. This has been out for a while. Again, you get, this actually is a board gamey kind of board, but you also get some of those plastic walls, which is sort of nice. And you also get some Escher. You get an Escher gang, and I'm 98% sure you also get... Yeah, you also get the, what are those guys? The Delok guys. And you get tokens and some dice and yada, yada, yada. And what else do you get? Oh, and then you get a hardcover book, but it's the older one. It'll work, but it's the older one. It's not the new, currently updated everything in there or whatever, allegedly giant honkin' book. So there's that. Both are, I think, a decent starting place, and they are technically in stock, which is surprising, frankly, but, you know, there you go. Then, of course, there's like tons of different gangs. The Book of Desolation, some other junk. So what is interesting to me is if you want to buy the current new fancy book, oh, there it is, finally. Way down here, 70 bucks. So that's if you want to do that. But then there's other ones, and I don't think, oh no, they do. They make a online only version of the core rulebook if you want to get that. Doesn't look like it has a price. Oh, find out more. Okay. What happens when you go here? Oh, you go to Warhammer Digital. Page not found. Okay, cool. Multi-billion-dollar company. Nice work. Anyway, you know, there's lots of bits and pieces and cool stuff and models and crazy terrain stuff and all these different types of things. So there's a lot available. You can even get the Zone Mortalis floor tile sets, which are nice, because for quite a while, those were out of stock. Just full stop. There was no way you were going to get that stuff, and now you can more frequently. But you get basically 4 tiles, so I think it's basically a 2 foot by 2 foot if you put them together that way, and it's $80, which is not cheap. You could make your own tiles for sure. What else? I don't know. There's a lot of little, whenever that says expert kit, that's basically Forge World, so it's resin. So anytime it says expert kit down here, that's what that means. And there's a lot of weird junk and hangers on and all kinds of stuff. Like this tank is a resin kit, evidently. But all this stuff down at the bottom here is all special little people and whatever and all that kind of stuff and expert kits. So yeah, I don't know. Sheen birds. You could get some sheen birds. I could technically use sheen birds in my group, so I was thinking about buying them, but I just don't know if I want to pay $39 for 3 resin birds. Yeah, we'll see. But there's a lot of little books and stuff. House of Iron. So this is Orlok. Yeah, there's a lot here. The bases are kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. There's also a lot of weird stuff, just weird, crazy head upgrades and all kinds of junk. So, interesting. Whoa, Wasteland Giant Rats. Those are weird. Anyway, my point is that there's a lot of stuff there to Necromunda. And strangely, a lot of it is actually in stock. That's weird. In comparison to like 40K stuff, that so much of it is out of stock. There's like this says the Van Sar gang is temporarily out of stock, but most of the rest of this stuff, okay, well, Corpse Grinder, Cult Gang, But yeah, the question is really about these boxes. These boxes are not bad starters, definitely if you want to play with the stuff that's in them, but it's, you know, and they're not a horrible price, to be honest. Like I still think that the new Kill Team box that's going to be coming out yet, we don't know the price, I don't think, unless they announce something today, of course, while I'm doing the stream. Just seeing what's in there with the amount of terrain and all that kind of stuff, I'm guessing it's going to be $285, maybe $265. Like if they decide to take a little bit of a, I don't want to say a loss on it, because they obviously wouldn't be taking a loss, but if they wouldn't be making as much profit, I could see that. But yeah. So anyway, boom, there you go. There's hopefully something. Let's see here. Took your advice on Skaven and spent half of yesterday airbrushing, then dry brushing a whole bunch of Oathmark, looking toward getting some speed paints on them. Nice. Charging $100 at Gen Con also means no messing with change. Probably true. That's a good point. Just on the GW site and saw the box sets, which got me wondering. Yeah. Like I said, there are 2. Secundus is the newest one. If you start worshipping the 4-arm Emperor, then you have 4 arms. Then I can be able to squirt the glue activator stuff on it. That's a good point. Wasn't interested in Necromunda, now playing it. Maybe you will start with a new kill team. After the announcement about that they're going to be rotating out teams, like already they're like, yeah, we got rid of the compendium. And then they're like, yeah, the Death Corps of Krieg and the Orc Commandos and stuff like that, those are going to be only playable for like a year in tournaments, and then they'll go away and we won't be updating their rules anymore. I'm already just like, yeah, you guys, no thank you. So yeah. Rachel's sister Battle Cosplay is really amazing. Holds hands way up high. My sister Cosplay holds hands substantially further down. Well, that's fine. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think she's been doing it for a while, for a good long while. I don't know though for sure. I don't know. But yeah, she is. She's very crafty. Good morning from California. How you doing? There is an Ogren slave gang, which is Renegade Ogren using the Ogren box you mentioned. The rules for it are found in the House of Chains. Gotcha. So then that's the situation where then you're like, oh, well, now we need another book. So there's that. Blue 9, how you doing? Shenanigans. Oh yeah, Rex. Our orange boy Leo has been full of beans this morning as well. Yeah, it's been mostly Rex. Our orange boy George, he is not usually as full of beans as Rex. Rex is almost constantly full of beans. I love live broadcast. Anything can happen. So it's true. Full of beans, farty? Not generally. For a while when we first got George, he was farty a lot, and then he got better. We started giving him, we started giving technically all of them, but we would sprinkle this probiotic stuff for cats on top of the food, and then they would eat it. And then, so he's gotten better. Generally full of beans just means you're running around and you're full of energy, I guess. Did not hear the motorcycle at all. Well, that's good. I'm glad that the mic does its job. I wish it would do a better job at the studio. Really didn't like Necromunda 17. My friends tried Necromunda Community Edition based on OG, and it was so much better for us. Really fun. Well, that's cool. Stopped playing Kill Team and started up Malifaux again. Nice. You can dissolve some baking soda in water and use that instead of chemical accelerator on C. I've heard about that too. Speaking of Necromunda, where's Necromunda? Right back there. Right there, hiding behind the window, staring spookily. JP Got Rockets, how you doing? Was that motorcycle playing We Will Rock You? It was not, Tick. It was not. That's a callback to 2 Gen Cons ago where we were walking to or from a restaurant and some guy rolled up on a motorcycle. It was very, very loud just by itself. And then he had like a huge stereo built into his microphone or into his motorcycle, which makes me like you even less. And it was blasting We Will Rock You or something like that by Queen. And then he was revving the engine while like along with the music. And I was just like, okay, you got the attention. There you go. Fun is like oranges. You only get the juice when you squeeze. Interesting. Good morning from balmy Florida, trying to get motivated to prime 40 skeletons. Is it very humid? Because if it's very humid, then you may not want to use rattle can, just FYI. If it's not as humid in your house due to air conditioning, which is probably the case, and if you have whatever airbrush, then you're set to go. And that's a lot. That is a lot of skeletons, 40 skeletons. But it can you can break it up, do it for a while, go get a snack, that kind of thing. Halfway home and unit to 20. Nice. I hate that there are Necromunda purists like 30k community that discourages really cool kit bashes or even just factions that aren't one of the houses in general. I just don't play with those folks. They can, it's just they will play amongst their people and then you can play amongst your people and it's okay. Currently painting my clan rats for Spearhead. Really fun to paint. Yeah, they are. There's a lot of them. There's 20 of them and it took me a little bit, but they were a decent time. Didn't Secret Weapon make paint? They also made paint. Secret Weapon Miniatures made, initially it was all about the resin bases, and then they got into the plastic terrain thingies, the tiles, and they also then started with washes, I believe, and then they moved into actual opaque paints. And then eventually they kind of went out of business, unfortunately. Tinker Turf is good, cheap Necromunda terrain. Yeah, I could see that, for sure, yeah. Oh dear. I just want to move a little bit. You know what I mean? I'm just like, oh, I think I'll move a little bit. And then it just goes, well, what if we move all the way to the bottom? And I'm like, no. Fat Dragon Games makes clippable terrain, but it's mostly dungeon fantasy. Oh, sure, yeah. I got to play stand-up bass at a bluegrass traditional music festival yesterday. Tell Necromando. Nice. So Mortalis for $80 works great. They're great tiles. They're just, I feel like 4 of them they're not $20 a piece. Sun is out here in my area in Ireland. Doesn't happen very often. Going out to spray some 3D printed Tau terrain. That's nice. Nice. Would the first 2017 under Hive box set be a good way to start Necromunda, like both teams? I think so. It's just one of those situations where, yeah, the rules are maybe a little bit older. So like, it wouldn't be bad to start, and then you could play with what you got there a little bit, just as a fully just boxed kind of like experience. But if you want to start playing with other people, you may want to get the bigger book, which costs $70 and weighs 28 pounds or whatever's going on here. So, but yeah. Or you could also take a look at Gang Wars over there at One Page Rules. Just saying. Gangs are good, dice are needed, but the books will be out of date for rules. You could use the campaign scenarios, though. Sure. My local GW had a sealed copy of Battle of the Five Armies in the stockroom when it moved over a decade later. Wow. Sometimes just stuff gets stuck behind the, a thing, and then there you go. Playing old free edition and some added rules, only kit bash. Nice. Bamboo A1 and Frozen Sonic Mini been going flat out all week here. Nice, nice. It's hard since Necromunda is a campaign game, so every group can change rules as they see fit. Like our group uses house rule for Blaze because it's painful to play against. Yeah, there's a lot of, from what I've been reading and stuff like that, there's a lot of people who use house rules and things like that. The Bamboo lawsuit. Basically, an industrial 3D print machine company has the patents on heated beds and purge towers. Important stuff for Bamboo. Likely they are attempting to get money or control of Bamboo. Yeah. Peachy Tips and the Jugs crew. Hang on, I got this. There we go. It's a little piece of plastic over here that was like shining in my face. Peachy Tips and the Jugs crew have been talking about Necromunda quite a bit. The rise in popularity might have been helped by them. Could be. Technically, they could lean on a lot of the hobby printer market. I mean, that's the thing. Like, Bamboo is not the only company that uses that stuff. I mean, the purge thingy maybe, but the heated bed, like heated beds have been around on every printer that I've ever heard of, like FDM printers, I think. I don't even know. Could you do a non-heated bed? Maybe the very earliest ones did it that way. But Bamboo's like the big dogs right now as far as that's going. I don't know. It's a lot of terrain. I just made more molds with my new terrain because I guess the 150 casts of the old terrain wasn't enough. It's a sickness. Be very sure. Sure about what? About the Necromunda terrain? You got him as psychic. Maybe he can tell us this week's power wall numbers. That'd be pretty cool. I'm in a Necromunda campaign and have yet to win with my Ash Waste Nomads. Nice, nice. Book of Artifice. What did I say? Avarice? Artifice makes more sense. I'm contemplating putting out a fantasy skirmish game. It's been 10 years since I was in the industry. Market grown as much as it seems, or is competition cutthroat in the minis realm? I mean, to some degree, it's all about marketing. Vince and I have been what we believe to be successful. We're obviously not knocking on Games Workshop's door and giving them a fright. We're not, we're not even making enough money to like live on. Like if, it's for neither of us is it our day job. You know what I mean? Just the game company. We got other stuff going on. Vince has an actual game, day job, and then also his YouTube channel, and then the game company. Whereas I've got a YouTube channel and then the game company, and then also the stuff that I'm doing with Army Painter, the factory team thing. So the company is not in a situation where we would be like, oh, cool, we can pay our bills with it. But it's nice, and it's been doing okay, and we've sold, decent amount of product, and we've been pretty happy about that, and people have been enjoying it. I probably signed maybe 24 books at Nova Open. Like we did sell, we didn't have any copies of the new book to sell at the seminar that we gave at Nova Open. We gave a seminar about game design. And because I had COVID when I got back from Gen Con, I forgot to order books to send to Vince so that he could drive them to DC, because he drives to DC and I fly. So then he just throws the books in the car and it's fine. But I forgot to order some in time. And by the time that I was done with COVID and all that stuff, I was like, oh, they're not going to get to his house in time at all. Not even close. So didn't do that. But we did have copies of Rain in Hell and Majestic 13. We both thought that box also had some some Space Station Zero in it, but it did not. So anyway, we signed those, but we also had people walking up to us just being like, pulling book out of their backpack and being like, can you sign this and stuff? And so that was really cool. So we enjoy doing that and it's fun, but there's no illusion that the reason that our books, we're able to talk to more people about our books is because both of us have been making YouTube channel, for like a decade a piece. So if you write a cool game and you do a decent layout and you get good art on the cover and all that kind of stuff, it can still be an uphill battle to get people to find out about it just because it's a good sized market. We have the benefit of doing this and getting an audience before we did this. When people ask me, hey, I'm interested in making a game or getting into wargaming design and stuff like that, what should I do? I always tell people the first thing you need to do is build an audience. whether it is you're making a blog, whether you start a YouTube channel, whether you do an Instagram, TikTok, I don't know. Build an audience. You need to have an audience of people who agree with your point of view to some degree. Like if you did a blog about game design, if you did a blog about anything, you know, whatever, something that's war game based. Don't do a blog about fishing and then be like, hey, I made this war game. That's not gonna. But I would start there, honestly, in most situations. But yeah, we would have a harder time, like if we both had the skills that we have, like in, you know, game design and layout and all that kind of stuff and blah, 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 and got the artists that we got and everything, but didn't have a YouTube channel, each of us, like between the two of us with some overlap, I'm certain that there's plenty of people who advertise, or not advertise, sorry, subscribe to both me and Vince. There's probably 300,000 subscribers there. Now, Lord knows they don't all watch the videos when we talk about a new game, but it's enough do that it does help to move it. And then because we're doing it through Wargame Vault, Wargame Vault. So websites, there we go. So because we're doing it through Wargame Vault, enough people buy our books initially because we, you know, because they know us from YouTube and we make a video about it. Usually we don't go crazy about it, but we do. And then it shows up in best-selling titles because it's up there, and then it stays there for a while. And the people who don't know who we are also see this and go, huh, well, that looks cool. And then they click on it and decide, well, I would like to purchase this, please. And then go, you know, whatever. And so I have had people who didn't realize, like, who are talking to me because they know me through YouTube and didn't realize that Vince and I wrote Death Wizards or Rain in Hell or whatever. Like, it's happened from time to time. Usually people know, but every once in a while, like I had a guy in a shop who was like I was talking about how we were just kind of catching up and I hadn't seen this guy in a long time. And he knew me through YouTube, but we had met at a convention or something like that or whatever, but he was a local. And he asked, you know, like, what's been going on? I'm like, oh, we're working on our next game. And he's like, oh, you're making games? I'm like, yeah, our first game was called Rain in Hell. And second game was called, and he's like, I own Rain in Hell. I didn't know that was you and Vince. And I'm like, how did you find out about it? Well, it's like this. Again, if it sells well, then it ends up on the bestseller list and maybe you come there. Like Death Wizards is currently number 1. Space Station Zero is currently 11. It was a higher up before. Rain in Hell is 23. Majestic 13 is 25. Snarl is 30. So they were, more of them were higher up in the top 10 for a while after. When a new game launches, then the other ones have a tendency to sell well as well. So, but anyway, yeah. So that does help. Let's see here. Scrolling. Late, high the afternoon in Scotland. How you doing? Steamy Swamps in North Carolina. I think I'm going to get into Necromunda. The new box seems like a great starting point. If you like the forces, yeah. Like, I like Van Saar, but there's something about the Van Saar in that box that to me is like, not quite. I like regular Van Saar, but Hive War is a fun set. Good way to snag walls and gangers. True. Let's see here. My daughter Zoe doesn't think you know who I am. Help me out. How you doing, Kelly? It's good to see you. It's been a long time, not since the last time I talked to you, obviously, you know. Let's see here. Playing 5 parsecs from home with infinity miniatures. It's core space terrain. Love mixing the best things in each game. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing that makes wargaming awesome, is that you can just use a bunch of different parts, get rid of rules you don't like, add new rules you think are cool, all kinds of stuff like that. Hive War is probably the best all-around starter set just for the terrain in it. Ash Waste has some decent terrain, but not for standard Necromunda. True. But if you want to do, if all you want to do is Ash Waste, then yeah. But although I didn't see Ash Waste on the website anymore, so they may be out of it. Necromunda has been my favorite GW game for the past few years. Started sets and terrain are pricey, but the individual gangs aren't bad. The individual gangs aren't bad, absolutely, in comparison to some other things, for sure. Talking about whether we had mist overnight, which I noticed is I have a chest infection. Well, that's no fun. Blood and Plunder, too expensive. Sail Power starter is 2 captains, edition models, and free rules PDF. You choose which models. That's pretty cool. My mom is having breakfast next to me just now, heard about the kill team rotation, and her immediate reaction was a disapproving, well, that's a money grab. Yes. Honestly, what it is that I believe that they're just taking cues directly from Magic the Gathering. Like, if you look at it, the way that Magic used to do, specifically like in Standard and things like that, where you could like, okay, when you're playing Standard at like Friday Night Magic or whatever, use the last 3 sets, and then when the new set comes out, then that last set leaves and then you can't use it anymore. But that was back when sets came out every quarter. Now sets come out every 20 minutes or so. Like the new sets, from what I understand, and I'm not a Magic player, but I believe new sets come out either monthly or even every 3 weeks or something crazy like that. Reminds me of that bit from Pacific Rim, where they just keep getting faster and faster, and like eventually they're just going to be releasing 2 sets at once, you know, that kind of thing. With the kaiju. Anyway, yeah, it's nuts. I don't get it. I don't know. Cooking breakfast and I hear Adam yelling, "Stop being weird." I was probably talking to Rex. Necromunda Core rulebook you show at the start of the video. How old is that? This is the newest book. The newest core rulebook. Oh, it's got a big scuff on it. Well, that's a bummer. Anyway, but yeah, this is the current full-blown core rulebook. It is an 1.5 inches thick, I think. It's $70. It is designed in the UK, but it's printed in China. Can we see how many pages it is without me dropping it on my keyboard? Maybe. It's got an index. That's cool. 330 plus pages is how many pages is here. Yeah. Oof. See, the trick is if, let's say, if you can't get it in your local shop, if you order it from GW, you'll get free shipping because it's over $65, and then they'll have to ship that thing, and it weighs a lot. So, haha on them. Is it me or just the GW website's gotten worse and worse over the last couple of years? Oh, they did a big redesign last year, I think, and it made it way worse. Yeah, they oof. Watch Gorilla Miniature Games review of the Hive Secundus box to see if it's what you want and need. Sure. I bought Hive War at my FLGS. Ash Waste, I waited and bought piecemeal parts online, still eyeing Secundus. The main thing I really like from Secundus, and it's not from the Secundus box, but it came out at the same time, is like the walls. This is obviously a 3D printed one, so it doesn't count, but like the walls, and they made a bunch of ruined and broken ones and stuff like that. And that I want. Well, yeah. For when I am really get going on building all that kind of stuff. It's not actually a hardcover either. Really? No, I thought it looked like a hardcover. Come on. Huh. Open image in new tab. What happens if I do... See, that little ridge right there along the edge makes me think that they're trying to show that it's a hardcover, but it would make sense if it weren't, I guess. I don't think I have this box anywhere, so I don't know. But yeah, that little... Because it's basically what that's trying to do there is it's trying to show the little... See this little ridge here? That to my mind, that looks like it's a hardcover. And so they're either inadvertently trying to trick us, or I don't know. It's weird. Boop. There we go. Nope, wrong one. There we go. Let's see here. I'm one of those Escher ladies, really? Used to love the GW US site, but it turned to crap. Yeah, it's not great. They really, really messed it up bad. I don't know what they were doing. Escher jet bikers are amazing. They are cool looking models. Book of Desolation is pretty solid. You mean to tell me if I spend $10,000 on this game and still not even have everything? I mean, it's potential. I think the big reason nobody does. Well, I take that back. Almost nobody does. I think the big reason, by the way, that Necromunda is not on a 3-year cycle is that it is a Forge World game, not GW proper. It's not Forge World. It's what do they call it? Specialists Studios or whatever. Specialist Games is what they call Blood Bowl, Necromunda. I think technically Legions Imperialis or whatever they call it. That one's also specialist too. Let's see here. I got my Necromunda stuff separate from eBay and Marketplace. Bought only what I wanted. $30 Canadian for 2 rule books, $50 for Orlok starter, and 2 buggies. Nice. I have a ton of Necromunda stuff, but no one to play against. How can I unload it all without losing too much on the investment? Your best bet is probably going to be eBay, but you know, that's kind of at your own risk a little bit. I wanted to give a shout out to Army Painter and their metallics. Awesome colors. My favorites are Cobalt Metal and Gemstone Red. I've primed and highlighted or whatever, you know, like Zenithal colored the Halo dudes from the Recon box. And I did one group in like a olive drab kind of military type green and the other group in like a sand color. So there's 4 and 4. But at Adepticon, the earlier part of the year, Andy from Mantic gave me a little one-off Spartan that was made out of, I think, resin. Slightly higher detail than the stuff that comes in and everything. And you got to put it together. You got to put his little arms on, but it's not that hard. It's not hard. Anyway, that guy I primed black, and then I used gemstone to spray him. So he is red metallic. So I'm going to paint him separately just for fun. The other guys, I didn't want to go down that. Because in the video games, especially these days, everyone's like a crazy metallic, different color and stuff like that, especially when you're playing PvP. And I didn't want my guys to look like that, but that one guy, him, I'm going to paint up like that. So yeah, gemstone is a great color, and so is cobalt as well. More likely to buy Necromunda models on impulse and cool factor than straight 40k models. Yeah. Is there a purge of old kill team on the horizon like Warcry? It's planned. Like they have definitely, they're going to be like going through and being like, well, hang on. No, I got rid of it. Oh, wait, here we go. Managing the range. So this came out on Friday. Managing the range of kill teams in the new edition. Long story short is that for this year, the groups that are classified, which is to say can be used in tournaments, is Orc Commandos, Death Corps, Novitiates, Pathfinders, Legionnaires, Corsair, Void Scored, Blooded, Phobos Strike Team, Void Dancer Troop, Warp Coven, Wormblade, Hunter Clade, Gellerpox Infected, and Euclidean Starstriders. All of these guys are cool as of now. But, and then also adding to that is Angels of Death, which I don't know what that is. And then the Navy Breachers, the Kroot, the Casterkin, the Necrons, the Exaction Squad, the Hand of the Archon, like all the stuff. So this is all of the stuff that they've released. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5, 10, 14. I don't know. It's a bunch. Was it 30 some? Whatever. Anyway. These are good for this year, but then next year, and also these are good for this year. So for this year, all the stuff on this chart, both classified year 1 and classified year 1 and year 2 are good. But then next year, in tournaments and such, none of these will be available to be used. Commandos, Death Corps, Novitiates, yada, yada, yada. So now again, who plays tournaments? I mean, some people do, but not very many, obviously. But some people do. So if you're just playing with your friends, just keep playing with the old stuff. It's fine. But just the fact that they're making it like a thing and they're like, hey, look, we're doing it this way. And we're just letting you know that those cool Death Corps guys, you're not going to be able to use them anymore after next year or whatever. Again, if you want to play in tournaments and stuff like that. They did make a special note that said many of the units will live on in the Warhammer 40k range, which we know because they mentioned it at Nova that there's going to be an entire new group of Death Corps models beyond just that one group that they did for Kill Team. So For the vast majority of players at clubs and leagues and playing with friends, every team, classified or not, will provide a fun and fair gaming experience, while your miniatures may also be used in solo and co-op play as NPOs. We are excited to see. So basically they're like, look, you can still play with your friends. Like, thanks. But you won't be able to use them in tournaments, I guess. I don't know, which is whatever. Again, if it only affects tournaments, then I kind of don't care. But at some point, it says right here, from now on, every kill team will receive consistently updated rules for 2 editions. Updates will be quarterly, while smaller adjustments, yada, yada, yada. This is to ensure a manageable range that we can keep in stock. Well, yeah, good luck on that. But the idea basically is that, like, they're having real stock problems. Like, the fact that they're just like, look, we can't keep 30 boxes in stock. And you're like, really? I guess. All right. Yeah, so all of this basically is really only that important if you are playing tournaments, but at some point they're just going to stop making updates for some of those ones in that first box, that year 1 box. So even if you're not playing in tournaments, you're just going to be playing old rules, and then you're going to be like, well, that's a bummer. Even when I'm just playing with my friends, they got all the new, like, because I'm sure there will be, you know, power creep as they come along and go through all that stuff, and yeah. So anyway, it is not expected, but unsurprising. Let's say that. Because as soon as they kind of, as I read this, because people mentioned this during my Twitch stream on Friday. They're like, hey, did you see this new article? And I'm like, no. And then I read it and I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, that totally makes sense. So I don't know. If you're interested in the models, you want to use them for other games, pick them up while you can. And then, you know, but if you're playing kill team, especially if you're playing competitively, get used to just buying new models all the time, I guess. I don't know. That's the way it works. Someone sees the Magic the Gathering rotation money and wants it. Oh, yeah, exactly. Warcry has not purged teams yet. True. Those teams that are Warcry teams, many of them can't be used in the new version of Age of Sigmar, but they haven't been purged out of Warcry as far as I've seen. Let's see here. Scrolling. Rather go with Dead Zone from Mantic or Grimdark Future Firefight? Yep. Doing great. Been here since the start. Head down painting last bits from a Corn Goreblade box. Nice. Necromunda, huh? Trying to work on getting a league started locally after 3D printing a bunch of buildings, but had to delay the start owing to some other members getting their work schedule. Sure. Good morning from Seattle. Listening and cleaning up terrain from first game of Country Road Z yesterday. Game exceeded my expectations. Nice. Guy who designed Country Road Z is local-ish, I believe, at least to me. And he's been coming to the little convention that I do in early June, the Tabletop Minions Expo. He's been running demos at Tabletop Minions Expo for the last 3-4 years at least. And then, like, this year or late last year, he partnered with Modifius, I think. Modifius or Osprey. And I think it's Modifius, because now that game, I think, is published through Modifius. So that's really cool. Is that a Virtual Boy in the background? Yep. Oh, geez, I should go back to the main screen. Sorry. Willing to do demo gangs for those interested in getting used to the rules in the Fox Valley, though. Cool. Oh, shoot. It jumped again. Why does it do that? Necromunda tiles are very nice. That's true. My pumpkin has had a case of the zoomies. Oh, that's a cat. I thought you were talking about a pumpkin like you were carving it for Halloween. A case of the zoomies since 3 a.m. and he's been trying to wrestle with me all morning. Must be an orange cat holiday today. Could be. I don't know. Like I said, Rex is not orange. He's a brown tabby, but George he's definitely an orange. James, how you doing? I got TOW magic cards. I need a solid deck holder. Oh, the old world? Oh, yeah. I grew up playing first edition AD&D, and I refused to play the new D&D systems. Well, that's fine. Love Necromunda. Just finished up a mini narrative campaign with some buddies. Looking forward to spinning up a campaign. Nice. I'm psychologically preparing myself to get in a fight with my 3D printer. Oh, that's a bummer. Dragon's Nest does a nice FDM building kit that has Necromunda vibes. If you got a 3D printer as well as a sector, then I would, yep. Love your channel so much. Just bought my first ever set of last weekend, a Skaventide box, and got it all built up and ordering some Army Painter paints today. Nice. Good to hear, Charlie. I hope you have a good time with it. Company claiming the patents on heated beds, etc., have real weak case. The dates on their patents are well after each tech was in use. Yeah. Necrodamus is a good rule compilation. I haven't heard of that. It's interesting. What's the best place to buy Army Painter to get you credit? There's not really... They're working on that. We don't really have any kind of like affiliate link or anything like that particularly set up yet. There is a thing that they're working on. It's in progress. It's kind of being tested at this point, but that'll be eventually. Like if you end up ordering directly from the website, if there's like a notes field, just say, hey, Uncle Adam sent me, and that'll be, that'll be good. Snarling Badger games are a lot of fun and cheap. Totally punk rock. I'm opposed to OPR, just lazy plagiarists. I haven't come across that. But I'm glad that you like our games. And we do want to keep them cheap. We definitely are big fans of, like, so far our most expensive book was $19 plus shipping. So we want to make them as accessible as possible. What I really love about Necromunda is being able to chaos corrupt or gene stealer corrupt your house gang. Last campaign I turned my Orlocks into a Slanesh cult. Nice. I bought Cyberpunk Red Combat Zone earlier this year and still haven't got it on the table. I feel like they kept a key aspect of the game out of the starter, the Gonk minion mechanic. I guess I haven't paid close attention to that. I need to finish building those guys and then paint them very quickly. I want to do like either oil washes or like enamel washes on them. I designed an Inquisition gang for Necromunda using my Shadow War Armageddon Inquisition force as the base after seeing it was possible thanks to an older gang bat rep. That's kind of cool. Skirmish games are amazing for budget and keeping things simple. I agree. I'm a big fan of skirmish games. Good morning from Gilbert, Arizona. How you doing? Ash Waste does have a Mad Max vibe, I agree. Core space / battle system terrain kits are very good for Necromunda, actually. I don't know that I've ever seen those. I've heard the name, but I can't think of them off the top of my head what they look like, Ash Waste campaign is also as brutal as the older Necromunda game system in addition to Waste starter box no longer being produced. There was a demo game that a friend of mine ran at TMX shortly after Ash Waste came out. He is a machine, and he painted up like the whole box like that. And he was running a demo at TMX. And in the game that they were playing, every single turn, every single model had to roll to see if they went blind, started on fire, or went crazy. That was the way the scenario worked, is they were out in the sands and stuff, and so you either went blind or started on fire, or I think you could do all of them at the same time. But you had to roll for each: blind, on fire, or crazy. And so, yeah, that was crazy. Ash Waste was too much money. They really charge a lot for that Ash Waste terrain. Those like crazy, like there's that double hab unit or whatever up on stilts. When they first showed that off, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. I like I like the silhouette of it. And I looked and it was like, at the time, and I'm sure it's more now, it was like $110 for a single piece of terrain. And I'm like, get out of town. What are you doing? Like that thing's not worth $110. Yeah, that was nuts. Like I have the pieces that came inside the Ash Waste box, and I have built them, and they are primed, and that as far as I've gotten right now, because I'm not sure what to do with them because I don't really play Ash Waste, but they could be cool in other games. But they're sitting on the shelf ready to go. But I'm not adding to that group, not with how much that stuff costs. Any suggestions for a good campaign-style skirmish game that would hit the same feeling as Necromunda? I loved it 95 with the barrier to entry. Now seems to be lots of books, messy rules. I mean, I'd tell you to take a look if you're looking for something like that at One Page Rules. They've got a game called Gang War, which goes on top of their skirmish game, their sci-fi skirmish game, which is called Grimdark Future Firefight. So you know, there's no reason not to take a look at that. It's relatively inexpensive. I think that Grimdark Future Firefight is $5 as a PDF, and then Gang Wars is probably also $5. But if you do their Patreon at the $5 a month level, then you get access to both of them. And I don't think it's not like, oh, you only get access to them while you're a patron. I think you get access to them, I think, from then on. I've been a Patreon supporter at their $5 level for quite a while. They also have a $10 level, but then that includes lots and lots of STLs. So if you're not into 3D printing, it's not useful. Anyway, yeah, something to think about there. But you could also just go directly to like wargamevault.com and then just buy, you know, each of them. And then as they update them, you'll always get free updates. So that's nice too. But yeah, that's not a bad place to start if you're looking for something with like the Necromunda vibe, but, you know, easier rules. Looks hardcover, but the product description says it's perfect bound. Well, that is shifty. Just saying. New rulebook also leaves out a bunch of material from prior books, so worth getting, but also worth locating a compilation. Huh. Both you and Vince and Sam signed my Death Witches book. Oh yeah, no, Sam, it's got artwork in there, so yeah, that totally makes sense. It's too bad Martin, because Martin, I think, was going to come to Nova and then last minute couldn't. So he could have potentially even gotten him in there too. Kings of War Vanguard can also potentially scratch the Fantasy Skirmish campaign Mordheim itch. I've heard about it. I've never played it, but I'm glad that they got it going on. Hive Secundus box rules don't show all the content available for gangs. It's a thematic box related to this particular story. Yeah, it's playable out of the box for the stuff that's in the box, but it doesn't have the rest of the stuff in it for sure. Grab the Secundus walls. Can confirm they are pretty rad. Nice. Could be just superimposing the cover on a stock cover and use the wrong cover. Yeah, that's very probably the case. When you get to this towards the end of the episode, Zambies painted them at one point and named them after a bunch of us that are regulars in chat/mod. Oh, I get you. Gotcha. Many perfect bound books have a pressure relief ridge. Yeah, I think if they're thick enough, they do. I mean, yeah, there's a little, I don't know if you can see it there. There's a little, like it's just barely there. You can kind of catch it. See it up here? See that little, it's a very slight ridge, but yeah. It is probably just they put the cover on a stock thing or whatever. And let's see here. I actually do have the Hive War set, which is how I know. Makes sense. Stormcast video coming out soon. Not soon, but at some point. The only Necromunda starter box that has a hardcover is Ash Wastes. Interesting. What's the average price for painting one Warhammer troop miniature at your area? Oh, from like a commission painter? That's a good question. I don't know. I've never had a commission painter. Well, that's not true. Sam painted some things for me back in the early days that I paid him for. He painted some Terminators for me once. And I forget what, I think I got 5 Terminators and it was like $75. This is way back before he was, you know, the North American with the most miniature painting awards in all of North America. You know what I mean? It was a long time ago. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. Hive Secundus is about the size of a full one. Gotcha. Super nice to see the GW YouTube channel doing a paint video on the new Blitz Bowl box. It's just a pity it's going to be comment bombed by whinging palms. I don't know what palms are, but that's fine. Why are people mad about Blitz Bowl? That seems weird. Is it because that they would prefer that they talked about Blood Bowl, or is it? I haven't heard anything about that. New Kill Team kits are now on a 6-year support cycle, but 4 years for official GW tournaments, which is something that may not impact folks as much as it sounds. A 6-year support cycle sounds even weird, but either way. Kill Team stuff saddens me. I understand it, but I think the rotations and new additions are released too fast. I mean, that's across the board except for the specialist game stuff. Like 40K doesn't need to be on a 3-year cycle. Age of Sigmar doesn't need to be on a 3-year cycle. Warcry, Kill Team, they don't need to be on 3-year cycles. It should be a longer cycle, at the very least 5 years, but they're doing it every 3 years and they're just going to keep doing it. And I can't wait. The downside is we're going to have to wait a while to find out if I'm right. But I very strongly believe that not only are we still going to stay on a 3-year cycle, but we're going to stay on a 6-year index cycle. So 8th edition 40K came out. And all of the codices, nope, we're getting rid of them. We're coming out with these index books that you had to buy. They were inexpensive for a GW book. They were still more expensive than any of the books that Vince and I sell. But nonetheless, they sold them, and they had stuff like you could buy it was like a Xenos book. They had a couple Xenos books because, and they had a couple of different Imperium books. And then there were other ones where they just had like one book of stuff. So you had to buy a book. You didn't have to buy a book for every army. You might get lucky and have a book that covered 2 of your armies or whatever. But still, there was a bunch of books you had to buy. And that's the way they did the indexes in 8th edition. So they basically ripped off the Band-Aid, said all the old codices are, even though the one that had just come out like 2-3 months earlier, that one was no longer useful. Now we've got these indexes, and then as 8th went along and then into 9th, they then would come out with a new codex, and then the indexes would fall away, right? And then went into 9th, and then in 10th, so you had 8th, right, indexes. 9th, no indexes. They just were adding more and more books as they went. That was 3 years apart. And then 10th, they're like, oh, we're changing things again. We have to do indexes again, except this time the indexes were at least downloadable, and they were cards, not books, if you wanted to actually have the physical thing, right? My belief is that 11th edition will come along and be a new thing, and then 12th edition will be indexes again. I also believe they're going to do the same thing with Age of Sigmar. 4th edition, indexes. And then 5th edition won't be, and then 6th edition will be indexes again. We won't know until 12th edition comes along, which is technically only 4 or 5 years away, but 40K, 12th edition. But I will definitely, if that's the case, I will definitely say I told you so. Because I strongly believe that's the new schedule they're on. New book every 3 years, indexes and getting rid of everything every 6 years. I think that's what they're going to do. Local game store TOs are just as likely to ignore the classified list, and they have actually promised to provide rules and balance support till the end of the edition. Nice. Also wanted to mention that Fallout Factions can scratch the sci-fi skirmish campaign itch if you like that setting and rules. Like I said, I picked up the starter at Gen Con, and then I kind of forgot that I picked up the starter when I started thinking about it, but I'm going to take a look. Like, I want to build the models and all that kind of stuff, but I got other stuff in the way right now. But I do want to make this video about 2-player starters. Like I said, that one's like $100, which is maybe farther than I want to go. And technically, if you go on the website, last time I looked, it was like $113.27 or something like that. But I think that's probably just, again, converting from pounds. But at least they're not doing the thing that G-Dubs does, where they're like, hey, this is if you take this American price and you convert it to pounds, it is far more expensive than how much you buy it if it's in the UK. Like, they definitely don't just follow, they don't just convert. And same, obviously, with Australia and all that. Almost feels like they're trying to turn Kill Team into the competitive thing they tried to make Underworlds. They definitely are pushing hard on competitive for Kill Team, which is weird because in the grand scheme of things, so few people actually play competitive games. So many more people are casual players. And it just is weird. I don't know. But Ash had a really good... We were talking when I was there in Canada back in May. The reason he thinks that they push so hard on articles about competitive is because those articles get read more than any other articles. And part of it is because of, to some degree, the actual competitive players who want to know what the meta is and stuff like that. But more often than not, it's also just because there's a lot of people who are like, I don't exactly know how to build a list, but this meta thing, I'm going to read that so I can kind of see if I can't figure it out, and then I can beat my friend. I'm never going to a tournament, but I can definitely start to beat my friend Dave or whatever, and we play if I've got like a cool meta list and all that kind of stuff. And so when they look at views on the articles that they put up, the majority of the articles they put up are basically ads, right? So people are like, whatever, add. And then the meta list comes up and people are like, well, I'll find out if my such and such guys are any good or not or whatever. Then GW looks at the numbers from how many views each article gets and goes, well, these meta ones really pull down the numbers. And so then they just keep making more of them, but it's, I don't know. So I think it's overselling how big the tournament scene is. The tournament scene is definitely a good size, but don't get me wrong. And I'm not poo-pooing tournament play for people who dig it, but the fact of the matter is that casual play sells a lot more models and always has, because people buy stuff casually and then they're like, oh, that's cool, I bought that, this is very cool, and then they never even build it, but it's still a sale. You know what I mean? Maybe they build it, maybe they don't, maybe they take 5 years before they finally sit down and build it or whatever. People who are playing competitively are buying this thing and then they're trying to ride that thing through as much of the season or whatever as possible. And now GW is trying to make it so that the competitive players, very frequently, who aren't necessarily following the meta, there are competitive players out there who are like, well, this thing came out and it's the new hotness, so now I got to buy that army. So I'm going to sell this old army or whatever on the secondary market, and I'm going to buy these guys and paint them up as quick as possible and then take them to tournaments and dominate until they get nerfed, and then I got to, just that cycle. Now they're just trying to build the cycle in direct, where they're like, look, after 2 years or whatever, you can't use these guys anymore in tournaments, so then you have to buy new stuff. So, yeah, I'm kind of sketched out by the whole thing, but whatever. Angels of Death might be a White Dwarf set for the Warhammer Plus animation that came out. Could be. Looking ahead at a situation where it'll be 60 teams to maintain. I guess they could come out with 30 more teams. Like, if they're only coming out with 2 teams max every quarter, so that's 2 teams per quarter. There's 4 quarters, that's 8. Yeah, that's like, 25-ish, 24-ish, somewhere in there. It's hard to say. Big advice for Kill Team, don't buy teams not related to your main 40k armies. But what if you don't play 40k, though? So there's that. Another good thing about Necromunda, no tournaments or house rules, folks. It's true. It's a very good point. I'd be less annoyed if an edition was 8 years instead of 4. Sure. I see the way the Kill Team debacle is we can't put out rules fast enough to be Wahapedia, so now we are putting expiration dates on the models. I mean, maybe. I've never gone to Wahapedia. I'm vaguely familiar what it is, and I'm not a fan of piracy, so there's that. But let's see here. Magic the Gathering rotations matter less because cards are just cards. With models, you build, clean, kit bash, and paint the things. Also true. That's a good point. Like, yeah, you buy some cards, and now you can't use those cards. You use these other cards. But yeah, like, there are people out there who are like, it took me 3 years to get this army done, and now there's a new edition, and now my army doesn't work anymore, or whatever. And that's, yeah, absolutely. Not everybody can just crank through an army as fast as possible because they got families and jobs and kids and all kinds of stuff like that. Remember how we told you all those hundreds of dollars worth of figures were worth the price? Well, it's been 3 years, and bad news. Yeah. Remember when Kill Team was a mission in the back of the 40k book and you made your own stuff with GW models? Yeah. Would also matter less if teams were cheaper. True. So it can be done if peeps wanted to do a series one-off games with necro gangs. Sure. If anything, I'm slightly optimistic about Kill Team since it at least confirms that they'll be supporting the game itself in the long term. I mean, I guess I wasn't surprised by that. I think the one that's making me nervous is Warcry. Because they didn't really... Basically, during the Nova reveal, the Nova preview thing, when they mentioned Warcry, they were like, hey, we came out with that box set a little while ago, Briar and Bone or whatever it was called. That was pretty cool, right? Okay, on to the next thing. They did not mention a thing. They didn't say that they had anything for a roadmap. They didn't say, oh, by the way, new stuff's coming soon. You'll see stuff in 2025. They didn't say jack. They literally were like, hey, look at that last box that we did. Anyway, and that was it. And I was like, that's not good. So I don't know. Maybe they should think about mentioning at least that new stuff will be coming out in 2025. Like literally a sentence added to that script would have helped, but they did not. Shadow War Armageddon. Now that's the game that they should have taken off. It's so weird that they released Shadow War Armageddon, which was basically Necromunda, but with 40K models. And then the same year, then they're like, hey, look at this new Necromunda. And I was like, wait, what? I thought this was Necromunda. And they're like, well, it's obviously got to get a different name. And I'm like, yeah, but that's the thing. Shadow War Armageddon could be played with models you already have, whereas the new Necromunda couldn't. If you didn't already have Necromunda models, you had to go out and buy new Necromunda models. So again, it made sense when you went back and looked at it and went, oh yeah. But the Shadow War Armageddon, I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. I was having a great time with that. Getting drunk and attempting to design a wargame with Legos is a valid pastime. I mean, sure. You guys should break the mold to make a game with 1/100th scale master grade Gundam. Then you could just use 100th scale tanks from Team Yankee with it. I don't know jack about Gundam, and we generally like to make stuff that you can find the models pretty easily, or might already have them too. So that's a thing too. But yeah, that's there's a part of me that would love to make a game that was like micro armor, because I think that that's kind of interesting. Like sci-fi micro armor would be a hoot, but that's, you know, that's a kind of a big ask, you know. Bought a bunch of ash waste terrain on eBay for a reasonable price. I plan on using it for Stargrave. It makes sense. It can work great for Stargrave. OPR sends out a link for drive-through to you get them with the $5 sub, and then they'll stay in your drive-through work. That's what I thought. Yeah. So basically, if you do them, if you know, you could buy the game separately if you just didn't want to do Patreon at all. Or but if you just did the Patreon, then you get the link, and then you go from there. Trying to set up a game night of Necromunda. So far, I've been deep diving. And it looks like a lot of fun. Love the vibe. Yep. Shadow War is a good alternative for those who are disgusted by Kill Team, except that you can't get Shadow War anymore. I mean, I suppose there's probably somebody online who's got the rules someplace where you can download it or whatever. But loving your channel. Took your advice on not using used kitty litter. That's a good idea, I think. Really enjoyed your basing content. Super helpful. Thanks. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. Well, it makes sense when you know that Poms are people in the UK. They are whinging because Blitz Bowl isn't available in retail in the UK. Oh, okay. So they're not mad at the game. They're mad at GW for saying, hey, this thing you're talking about we can't get. That is weird. Why wouldn't it be available in the UK? That is very strange. The whole concept of making that game like literally only available through Barnes & Noble or whatever is a weird vibe. I don't get it. But I suppose Barnes & Noble's like, look, if you want us to sell this, you can't be selling it out from underneath us. I suppose I get that, but it is a little weird. But it's also strange that they're not selling it in the UK at all. That's weird. Thing that agitates me about cycling out product is that it gets easier for them to make product every year. They pass that benefit on to the stockholders instead of the players. Yep, there's capitalism for you. It's posted the Imperial agents from Kill Team with minimal no new trooper customization, as well as no Inquisitor to lead the force. Weird. There's no Inquisitor. Yeah, that's true, though, I suppose. Yeah, good point. Pre-ordered the Gamers Edition of the new Skaven Battletome partly because it's a small paperback and it'll feel less guilty about getting rid of it after 3 years. Yeah, but it costs more. I didn't realize that. Like, they used to do Gamers Editions of the codices electronically. So for the electronic version, you had the extended fancy version that had all the cool, you know, whatever, fluff and blah, blah, blah. But then they had a Gamers Edition that was like, here's the stats. Boom. And that was cheaper because it was less stuff. Now, from what I understand, the Gamers Edition is... I think it's is it the full codex, but physically smaller, plus also cards. So it's more expensive than the Battletome. Sorry, I said codex, but I meant Battletome. When I saw that, I was like, what? But if it's just the stats in a small book and then also the cards, but it's for more money, then that doesn't make any sense at all. If it is just, they took the book from front to back and just shrunk it down and then gave you the cards, I guess, I don't know. I'm glad I don't have to worry about it. Possible sticker shock on Kill Team is definitely making me look elsewhere. Warcrow sounds great, but it's hard to find. I mean, you could find, well, yeah, that's a good question. It's not very frequently it's not in stores, but true. Warcrow is cool, but the starter is quite pricey and doesn't come with the full core rulebook and its infinity complexity, which can be a turnoff. There is a lot going on in Warcrow, a lot, and also custom dice, which makes me a little bummed. Warcrow also doesn't have all the factions released with playable forces and alt force elements, so it's going to be a while before that game system ramp up. True. Yeah, that's also true. Interesting example. Kill Team Doubles at Adepticon was won by a duo playing Veteran Guard and Sisters, two kill teams that came out in 2021. Interesting. I really like some of the models for Infinity and have completed a dozen or so Stargrave crews. They're good models. I mean, they're metal, which I'm generally not a big fan of, but they're starting to get more... They're starting to make the models fewer pieces, which helps with metal. I mean, Warcry literally just launched last month. Technically true, yes. My math on another 30 teams is the 30 teams we have came out this edition. Gotcha. So I can't use Kill Team in 30K. True. I think the rotation makes some sense from a logistics perspective. If they release new rules 2 or 3 years from now, they would need to write rules going all the way back to Octarius. I mean, they do it with 40K. They make, you know, rules all the way back to certain things until they start putting them in legends and things like that. I think that maybe they should... Well, I was going to say maybe they should just dial everything back a little bit, you know, put out fewer models, or I don't know, make it so that you can also use models from like, I don't know, 40K. Then you don't have to worry about them because they can double dip. They can sell them to 40K people, and they can also like getting rid of the compendium has kind of put this in this position in my belief. If they hadn't got rid of the compendium, then people could also just be like, I don't know. I think that they hit it out of the park with 2018. In my opinion, especially the way that for basically $45-50, you got the book that had the rules and all the army lists in it that you needed, because it wasn't everything. You couldn't put in, you know, land raiders, because it was just like, you know, like, look, we're going to take the stuff that you could use in Kill Team from each different army that's out there, and you could put it together and go to town. But that wasn't enough money for them. So they were like, well, we have to start making, we have to split the book into 2 pieces in the next edition, and then we have to start making these bespoke things. And now they're just like, well, we'll get rid of that second book, and then we'll just make it so that people need to buy the bespoke things. And that's part of the reason why I'm just not interested. Let's see here. Back when Kill Team was in the back of the 40K rulebook, my gaming group at the time came up with their own variants: Zombie Survivor Kill Team and King of the Hill solo model. Good times, yeah. Gameplay argument for Kill Team cycling is that you get new players coming in and needing to learn the capabilities of the teams that they're going to face, and having to learn 60 plus teams is going to be a barrier. I guess then they shouldn't make 60 teams. You know what I mean? Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, they don't make 60 different factions in the game in the 40K. I don't know. When it just seems like a churn and a money thing, and it doesn't seem consumer friendly, in my opinion, especially when you're going to take the time. You're not just buying them, you're also building them, painting them, putting all that extra effort into them, and then they're like, yeah, but in 3 years you can't use it anymore. You'll have to use it in some other games or whatever, which is fine. I just think at this point, at least for that game, then I'm just going to play some other game anyway. It's mildly disorienting for how far ahead chat is versus where Adam is. I know. I apologize. Some days the chat reads like a group therapy for abused GW buyers, and that's okay by me. I still remember Combat Patrol is 40K in 40 minutes, where you could use trimmed down forces rather than pre-planned boxes. Huh. But yeah, we used to play Combat Patrol back in the day, and it was 400 points. And there were limits on what you could and couldn't take and all kinds of stuff like that. But I think it came maybe out of White Dwarf or something. Like, when I first got into 5th edition, we were playing Combat Patrol all the time, because then that way you didn't have to build an entire army. You could start off small, and we would go from there. And then eventually, like, go up to like 1,500 points, and then, from beyond there. Feeling weird for my oddly encyclopedic knowledge of skirmish games today. Nothing wrong with that. It's the full army book, but smaller, and the card pack included, plus a few extra cards. Huh. I love how much people get mad at capitalism, but won't just say that. Most of your anger just comes from the line goes up decisions. Yeah, no, I am mad at capitalism, and I will say it again. Every once in a while, I'll mention something like late stage capitalism or something like that in a video or whatever, and then people in the comments will be like, well, it's kind of it's big talk from a guy whose, job is based off of capitalism and, buying and selling things, and like, and I'm like, that's not capitalism. Like, just because you sell and buy services and products, that's not capitalism. That's You do that in monarchy. You do that in all kinds of different isms. It's socialism. You still got to buy stuff and sell stuff and things like that. That's capitalism is about the capital class, the investor class. Everything flows up to them, the people who are the shareholders and things like that. That's the thing about capitalism that is problematic. The idea that people have to either barter or buy things through some sort of that's just the market. That's how things get done. The idea behind communism is that you don't even have to do that, but that's obviously sort of difficult, and it's had some issues obviously here and there. And then there's Star Trek. I don't even know how they take care of things over there, but whatever, it's in the future. But yeah, like we're all going to have to buy and sell stuff to be able to get services and products and things like that and whatever. It's just that everything flows up to the investor class, and that's the part about capitalism that's crazy. So yeah, it's the capital class is what it is. That's where the capitalism comes from. Let's see here. Blitz Bowl in the U.S. only makes up for the Hachette magazine series. Huh. Oh, everything moved. Hello from Paris. How you doing? Blitz Bowl is available in Germany, so it's not U.S. only. Oh, that's good. I have to get my boyfriend into the U.S. to buy Blitz Bowls when I want them. Gotcha. To address getting into Necromunda, the Hive War box is still available in a very good introductory set. Yeah, we were talking about that earlier because it's still on the website. There's the Secundus box, which is relatively new, but the Hive War box is still available, which is surprising, honestly. You love capitalism, but most of the time we sit here going, I don't know why GW does this, when we all know why. Oh, I know why they do it. Oh, for sure. Anytime that they do anything, it's because of money. But that's the way that most big corporations work. Barnes & Noble ships Blitz Bowl to lots of countries, just not the UK. Huh, weird. I think the next game I acquire is going to be Another Glorious Day in the Core by Gale Force 9. $75, it's a good deal for a 21st century equivalent of Space Hulk. I keep hearing about it. I think I saw it at a store not too long ago, but I did not pull the trigger. Blood Bowl is well established here in the UK. Blitz Bowl was only designed as an intro game for the American market, and the Australians can't even count how many hands they have. What? I don't understand. That's not true. Let's see. Kill Team is a lot cheaper than an MTG deck and rotates slower than MTG standard, but the time you put into the minis is tough. Yeah, well, that's still a big, what do you call it? It's a big effort sink. I think I made that up. Let's see here. 40K in 40 Minutes was a fan creation that GW found out about back in 3rd. They published it in White Dwarf and then included it in the 4th ed rulebook as the OG Combat Patrol. Gotcha. Okay. Like when we first started playing in 5th, we were just like, we all just sort of like, it was not spoken word. What is that? It's like a verbal, like, tradition where it was like, well, these are the things. And then every once in a while be like, yeah, but can I do this? And they'd be like, well, no, because that's got 3 wounds. You can only do 2 wounds max and blah, blah, blah. Like vehicles couldn't have more than 33 points of armor. So you could pretty much mainly only run rhinos, although I think you could run devilfish too. There was, but not too many. Like there was small, I had a chaos. I started with a Tau combat patrol, and then which I never finished painting, but then I did a chaos combat patrol, which I did finish painting, which was fun. Let's see here. Let's see here. There's a lot of weird box games that never hit the UK market. As a Brit, I reckon it's largely due to that every town, city has a GW, whereas it seems you're far more desolate anywhere else. Yeah, like in America, like in the entire state of Wisconsin, which is not a super populous state, but it's okay. We only really have, for the longest time, we only had 2 G-dubs, or, well, Warhammer stores, but back then they were called Games Workshop stores. When I was initially working on the Game 4 app, when working with Milk Can, I did a survey to try to figure out how many game stores there were within 100 miles of us. There was 50 game stores within 100 miles. So there's a lot of game stores, but not nearly as many GW stores. Like I said, for the longest time, there was one outside of Milwaukee and one outside of Madison, and then there was one outside of in Kenosha. I think there's 5 now in the state. So there's Milwaukee, Madison, Kenosha, West Bend, I think is the newest one, but there's also De Pere, which is up near Green Bay. So there's only the 5. Whereas from what I understand in the UK, like most game stores are GW, and then the other ones are kind of few and far between. I have to fly to Milwaukee soon. I'll play and teach Necromunda. It's so good. Nice. Adepticon will be in Milwaukee soon, so there's that too. All right, folks. Well, it is 11 a.m. here in my neck of the woods, so I want to thank everyone for coming by today and listen to me yammer about stuff and talk a little bit about Necromunda, and we'll look at some things and this and that and the other thing. And yeah, I hope that everyone has a good rest of your weekend. Unless you're in Australia, then it's already Monday. It's already the next week. I hope you have a good week. Hope you have a good. I hope you have a good life. I want everybody to have a good time. So we'll be back here in 2 weeks. Otherwise, I'll be on Twitch again Monday. My Monday, possibly your Tuesday, at 7 p.m. Central Time. The new Space Marine game comes out. I will not be playing it on Twitch, at least not on Monday. Maybe at some point I might play it on Twitch, but not playing into that. But I'll see if I like it. We'll maybe chat about that a little bit while I finish up painting some other stuff I've got going on. So, yeah, just go to twitch.tv/tabletopminions if you're interested. I really should make a card for it, but I haven't done that yet with the new setup. So, yeah, that's pretty much about it. So everybody have yourselves some good time and get some hobby done and things like that. And we'll see you again soon. Thanks for coming by and hanging out and chatting. And thanks for watching.